I'll stop talking now. Listen, here's
I don't think they've never done that.
Ready? I'm scared. You scared?
All right, let's go. All right, at this time, I will call the June the 5th, 2023 meeting to order. Welcome everybody in attendance. Thank you for being here. At this time, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. We will be standing. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Folks, this time we'll be looking for approval of the May 8th, 2023 board minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review? We'll have a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the May 8th minutes.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving now under instructional, the first item we have here is Special Olympics. Ms. Frank.
Good evening. I know I saw some of you come to Special Olympics a while when we had it earlier in May. It was pretty amazing. And I thought for those of you that didn't come, we'd do a little synopsis. But I thought also, I asked my EC staff what Special Olympics meant to them. So I'm going to read you their responses before we watch the video. So Margaret Connor is our brand new OT. She said participating in Polk County Special Olympics was a wonderful experience for me, not just for the students. I was assigned to monitor and facilitate participation of one particular exceptional high schooler who tends to get overwhelmed and try to escape and hide when he's socially crowded. Upon arrival, he was greeted by a high school volunteer girl who was set up as his buddy for the day. He was smitten and rose to the occasion with appropriate social conversation, albeit within his narrow range of topics. And his high school buddy affirmed and validated his contributions and steered the conversation and social interactions further as other high school girls and boys approached either briefly or joined in his entourage for an activity or two. Suffice it to say, my student was quite happy, not overwhelmed at all, with the social attention and the opportunity to engage in the recreational fitness activities, especially with his own cheering section. I was a fifth wheel, and so I was able to help out with other students, including one who needed more physical support, and engage in a light, social, and fun way with my other high school students and their parents and friends. And one sister, even a sheriff deputy, who I learned was one of their granddads. It was a great way to get to know my students in their family and friend circles and within meaningful, enriching social and fitness activities. It was also incredibly heartwarming to see how masterfully and generously the volunteer high schoolers were with these exceptional buddies of mine. Joanna Feigart is an exceptional children's teacher at the middle school. The Special Olympics feels like a family reunion for me. I go to cheer on my students, former students, and to visit with good friends. Every year, I am overwhelmed by the sense of pride and community that the Special Olympics evokes. Helping our students achieve their goals academically, socially, and physically is a true honor, and the Special Olympics is a perfect day to showcase all the growth they are making and lets us celebrate everyone's hard work. And last, Robin Shepard, who we contract with for physical therapy. Wow, I could say so much. Jane Ollis is an amazing woman and is so supportive, and she is. I didn't see this one, but she shared a video that she said even our law enforcement got to play after the amazing helicopter appearance. So Jane, had a helicopter come and touch down because that's Jane. All of her stuff for the young athletes got blown around, and to my amazement, law enforcement, high school students, and teachers came to the rescue and set everything back up. It takes a village, and Polk County is the best village in America. So proud to call it home. And I am so honored to be a small part of this event. So it was amazing. And so I put together just a little video for you. Have a look at the highlight. So it was a special day. It meant a lot, and it was just a lot of fun. If you didn't get to come this year, I hope you try to come next year because it's amazing. The whole community is there, and Jane even taught, Tiffany Dennis, our hearing impaired teacher, taught several hundred children, several classrooms, how to sing a song, and they played the song and did it in sign language. So it was an amazing event. And if you see Jane, tell her thank you.
Mr. Chair, I know you were there, but I just want to say thank you to Tony Haley and our entire EC staff. They do such a great job pulling this together every year, and certainly glad to include the community agencies that we do, having that whole community come together. If you're ever down and depressed, just go talk to one of these kids. You know, they have all these challenges and obstacles, but yet they're smiling and having a good time. It sure helps you put things in perspective.
Yes.
So I appreciate you, Ms. Haley, and thanks for this. We usually have an instructional presentation, but with the testing and the end of the year stuff, we felt like this was more than adequate substance.
Ms. Haley, any questions for Ms. Haley? Thank you very much. Next, under instructional, we have the CTE plan. Josh Hill and Lindsay Edson.
Thank you all for having me. I gave Lindsay the night off because I didn't want to take up too much of yours off. Really, it's just two quick things tonight. The first thing I want to let you know, we have submitted our local plan that we do each year. Not a whole lot's changed, but we're actually on a 2-year basis as far as the big core pieces of that. So all that's going to continue to be the same. Obviously, growing the program, making community connections for work, and for having students to get opportunities to go out and use the skills they're earning, and also growing credentials, having students have certifications they can leave school with and go out and help them to get a job while they're either continuing their education or they're going straight into work. So as far as the plan, not a lot has changed, but I did want to take a second. We submitted this and just brag on my teachers and my students for a minute, because they're the ones who do all the hard work. I just spend money. What we're really proud of, I spoke a minute ago about credentials. A big push right now in career and technical education from the state level is getting those credentials, whether it's a CNA credential, OSHA certifications, NCCER, those are construction credentials, and send those kids out and make sure they have those. We were really proud. We went from 572 of those credentials were earned last year. As of 2 or 3 days ago, we were up to 840 for this year. So we're really excited about that. Another thing we were proud of, down a little bit, is our performance. We're rated on how our students who are concentrators within CTE perform. So that's students who complete basically 2 core classes or 2 classes within a given area together, like Hort 1 and Hort 2, or Ag Mechanics 1 and 2, something like that. So we were really excited to find out that our CTE program was one of the top performing programs in the West. We were first in the performance of our students in reading and language arts. Non-traditional enrollment, which means, females taking construction, males taking nursing, things like that, kids in programs where they might not normally be. We were leading that. We were first in program quality, which is how our students do on the post-assessment for the CTE classes they take. And we were number 2 in math. We were further excited to find out that in the state, we were actually leading the state in the performance of our CTE students on their post-assessments. And we were also leading the state, or we're second in the state as far as program quality. I'm sorry, I messed that up. We're first in the state in non-traditional enrollment, second in the state in program quality. I think we were behind Watauga. So I had to give my counterpart up there a hard time about that. Something else we worked hard to do, pre-apprenticeship programs. That's been something we talked a lot with Mr. Green about, and we're getting out and trying to communicate with, like I said earlier, different businesses and get opportunities for our students while they're still in high school to go out in apprenticeship, and that allows them to get work-based hours. It also allows them to get high school credit and to be paid for their time. The first one we got going, we got a pre-apprenticeship program in early childhood that we set up through the state. We hope to get some students working in that, and they'll probably be working in our pre-K program is our plan right now. So they'll be able to go to school, and during part of the day when they would do a typical work release, they'll go work at our pre-K program. And like I said, they'll get high school credit, and they will also get paid to do that. And the great part about this is the programs that we're hooking up with, they chip in and they help cover the cost of paying that student. It will also benefit them further as far as their education. There's a benefit to them as far as helping pay for that wherever they choose to go to school. We're also working with St. Luke's right now to do the same thing. Michelle Fortune was just wide open to the idea of apprenticeship at St. Luke's. And we're going to look at getting our certified nursing assistant students over there working. And she was really excited about the idea of having them in there and to also help cross-train students who maybe they've gotten their CNA, but their goal is to be an x-ray tech, phlebotomist, maybe go on to med school, something like that. She's going to help cross-train and get them some experience and exposure to those areas. And she was even more excited too. She was interested in maybe having some of our horticulture ag mechanics students come over and help with grounds maintenance, internal maintenance. So we're really excited about that. And finally, while we're on the subject of Michelle Fortune, I wanted to publicly thank her in front of the board. She came over for a visit in the spring and was in our CT, our nursing lab. And we have some beds, and they were good beds, but they were older beds. And she looked around and she said, "Hey, I have some beds at the hospital that I'm needing to do something with. Would y'all be interested?" And we were like, "Absolutely, yes." And so she donated 5 beds to us. So those are exactly like what a student would see, whether they're in assisted care or if they're over here at the hospital. So we're really excited about that. It's a huge leap for us, something there's no way we could have afforded as a school system to put that in. And so my goal with, obviously with CT money is to continue to upgrade that. I think what we're going to do next year with that room is dedicate it to look just as a lab, to look as much like a nursing facility as possible, and then have the actual, desks and classroom work happen in another place, and they'll go in there just for clinical experience. So, but like I said, more than anything, I want to brag on the work our teachers and students are doing. I'm really proud of them. Brag on Lindsay. She is our CIMC, but she does a whole lot of groundwork. She's the one that's really pushed and driven this apprenticeship program, and really proud to work with these folks and these students. So that is where we are right now. So thank you for the time. I just wanted to brag for a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
The program quality, is that the red-green test or the red-green report?
There was a red-green report. That was it. And they've changed that up on us this year, and everybody was complaining and fussing. The red-green report went away, and they went with a massive sheet that looks, it's kind of cumbersome. But we were all kind of questioning whether the red and green report would come back. But that's basically the same thing as we got our comparison, and we were able to sort and compare ourselves to the schools in the West and compared ourselves to the schools in the state. And that's where that information came from. Wow. So yeah, we're really excited. We're just it's kind of one of those things is how do you move from, you're doing a good job, so how do we do more? And the biggest things the biggest areas we see for improvement is continuing to get those credentials, continuing to get the students work experience out there as much as possible. So
And Mr. Chair, just as a point of verification, I think since we approved the 2-year plan submission prior, I don't know if we need to. I think
What I was
we
about
need
to
to.
ask, okay.
But I did want, Mr. Hill, we always like to have CTE come and do an update, and certainly the administration on this side is very much supportive of the direction they're going. I have to brag on Mr. Hill and all he's done this year. Anybody that can understand that CTE budget is doing something. And so he diminishes that and talks about that. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that he has to do. Certainly very proud of Lindsay and her efforts, Lindsay Edwards, on the career tech side. And all of those teachers and staff. I mean, I went with Doug and delivered a gazebo to Tryon Elementary on Friday. So those real world skills, those kids learn a lot more from that than they do a worksheet. And certainly want to say thank you to you and your staff for what you do.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's very obvious you guys are doing a great job there, so thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome to stay, Mr. Hill.
Next, under instruction, we have AIG summer seminars. Ms. Jan Croft.
All right, good evening, members of the board. It's always such a joy to come talk to you about the great things happening in our school system, and just wanted to make you aware that this summer we are once again hosting for the 8th time in partnership with the Polk County Community Foundation, our AIG summer seminars. So this is for the rising 4th through 10th graders this summer. And as you've seen in the material that I presented to you, that we have lots of great summer offerings happening in July and in August this summer. This year in June, we'll be doing our summer school for our elementary students and our middle school students in the month of June. But AIG seminars will take place in July and August. So anything from embroidery to robotics and coding. I mean, doesn't it make you want to take the classes when you read through them? I just get excited reading about them. Hands-on cooking opportunities, forensic science, where they're going to be learning about the dynamics of DNA and how that's used to solve crimes. Just all kinds of plant activities and studying ecosystems. So lots of fun things happening this summer for our students. And if you get a chance to drop by one of those classes, feel free to drop in and see our students and maybe learn something while you're there as well. So just wanted to let you know that's happening this summer. So we're excited about our summer opportunities.
Any questions for Ms. Croft?
Mr. Chair would be remiss not to say, just I know she mentioned it, it's in the documentation, but a huge thank you to the Polk County Community Foundation. We just would not be able to do this without their support and involvement. And I think this year it's opened up to all students. Before it was kind of limited to those who qualify for AIG services. And because of the Community Foundation and the funding, we're able to open it up to everybody. So just want to reemphasize that that Community Foundation does a ton for our kids in our school and our community.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ms. Croft. Now moving along under administrative, first item here is the budget amendment. Debbie Lovelace.
It's almost the end of the year. We're working on closing out the year, which is very hectic in finance right now. But in your packet is the budget amendment, amendment number 7 this year. On state funds, which is the first sheet, there was additional revenues of 9746. A small amount textbook money, behavior, there was a little bit, and most of that was fuel contingencies because of the increase in fuel. On fund 2, there was an additional 43,370. That's mostly due because of the increase in interest rates. So we're getting more money for the money we have in the bank. So because of the interest rate changes in the last probably 6-7 months, and it made a big difference. I even questioned it, but it was right. And in fund 3, additional 35,615, which was Title 1. A lot of times near the end of the year, we'll probably have one next time. They'll start giving us extra money. A lot of that money in federal carries over through September. So any money that's left over in federal, we'll have to use it out by September. So it gives us a little bit of money to for our payroll for those first few months. Okay, and fund 4. There was 85,606. I had to amend the Volkswagen air quality bus by 85,000. That's still money that's not going to be spent this year, but I just have to make sure I have enough in the budget for the auditors when they come, because you never know when those buses may come, but it will not be spent this year. It'll end up next year. They want us to account for it though. In Fund 8, there was $88,550 additional revenue. This was some Polk County Community Foundation mental health counselors and social workers training, and some PD for them that we got. That is it.
Questions from Ms. Lovelace? This is an actionable item. We'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I move that we accept the budget resolution and amendments.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on under administrative, the next item we have here is the end of year budget resolution. Mr. Aaron Green.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, this is the resolution we adopt towards this time of the year every year, so that even after we meet, I think we're meeting the 29th. So Ms. Lovelace found something on the 30th she really needed to do. This resolution would give her permission to make that adjustment, obviously approved by you guys at some point, but this just frees her up so that if we do find something last minute, and I will say that the state has been known to do that, to email Debbie on the day before the end of the fiscal year to say something, to give her the ability to make those adjustments as needed. And I think you guys have already been with Ms. Lovelace now as a CFO, and I know that we're not going to do anything squirrely out there, but we do adopt this every year to give her that flexibility so we don't have to call a special meeting again.
Certainly. Any questions for Mr. Green?
We approve the end of year budget.
Motion to have a second. Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Again, under administrative, moving along, we have the 2023-2024 driver's education contract. Ms. Debbie Lovelace.
Okay, in your packet, this month we included our yearly driver's education contract with Mountain Professionals. This is a contract that we have each year to provide driver's training for our students and that's okay, for driver's training. Basically, this is a pass-through. The state gives us the funds for this, and we use those funds to pay Mountain Professionals for our driver's ed.
All right, are there any questions here for Ms. Lovelace?
Does that company pay for its own paper and printing and stuff?
I'm sorry, Mr. Rice, wouldn't be questions from the public. It would be just, so I apologize. You and I can chat afterwards.
All right, this is an actionable item. Would be looking for a motion and a second.
It's the same contract. You've been approving each year.
And each year we talk about the fact that I'm not real sure Polk County Schools is excited to start taking over driver's ed again.
Right.
Then I move that we accept the driver's ed contract for 23-24.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And as my vice chair has just pointed out to me, on this bullet point, we're going to look back up to the supplemental adjustment, Mr. Green.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. If you'll recall, back in the fall, in September, actually, this board approved a two-payment structure of additional monies. It's 071. Debbie will know what that code means. But it's money the legislature put into your smaller counties, which wound up being the majority of the counties in the state, to give extra funding for local licensed salary supplement. So we agreed on, like I said, a two-payment system with totals out there, and we made sure that we put our contribution in locally as well as having the state funds. And what we found after paying those bonuses in the fall is that we're going to have a little bit more left in that 071 state money. So I'd like for the board to give us permission to go ahead and divvy the rest of that state money up in the second supplement payment, which will take place at the end of the year. It's going to add approximately $500 to those totals, which I don't think teachers will be real upset about. But certainly that money is designated for that purpose. We can't use it for any other reason. And I would argue that those educators are definitely deserving of that additional supplement. So what I would say in terms of a motion, I'm not in the habit of telling you what your motion should be. I wouldn't give a specific amount because it's a little different for each year level, each span of years. So it'll be somewhere a little less maybe than 500 for your 0 to 4 years, and for 25 plus years, it's going to be more than 500. So if you don't mind, we'd like to seek approval to use the remaining amount of 071 state supplement money to be distributed with our spring local license supplement checks. And whatever amount is divvied up. Sorry. So good. Good luck.
That motion, yeah, there you go. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if you do have board members have questions from staff and they say, well, where was the supplement money other districts are getting? Unlike other districts, we just included ours with our supplement payments. Some districts did a separate payment altogether. We just chose to do it a different way. So that's your explanation back then. They got the money, it's just in a different way.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, you good. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. All right, now back in order, we move down to errors and omissions. Ms. Debbie Lovelace.
Okay, in your packet also is, we also do this each year. This is your errors and omissions insurance that we have with the North Carolina School Trust. I think the premium's around $3,000 some odd dollars, but this is a standard contract that we have each year with them.
So liability coverage without it being insurance.
Yeah, I guess it's
So
really,
you can sell a certain governmental entities to get sued.
yeah.
Mr. Baker, you got a chance to review it. Everything's the same.
Yeah, it's the same secondary contract.
All right. All right, well then, any other questions for Ms. Lovelace? We'll be looking for a motion in the second for approval.
We approve the errors and renewals.
Motion to have second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. See, we have now some student transfer requests, Mr. Green.
Unless the board is, wanting to go into closed session to discuss further administration, I think these are pretty straightforward. We've vetted them out and feel good about it.
Okay, were guys, any other comments? Then, all right, we have a motion, we have a second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Now we have the Polk County High School floor project. Dr. Brendan Schweitzer.
Good evening, everybody. When Ms. Lovelace was talking about the end of the year being hectic in finance, I'm pretty sure it was a shot at me. So I'm trying my best to roll through these things quickly. Sorry, Ms. Lovelace. All right. So the flooring project we have discussed at the last board meeting in reference to the winning bid, which was a company called Interstate Flooring. It's a company we've done a lot of work through for. So Interstate has come back to us and done a proposal for how they will actually break down the project itself. It's broken into 3 parts. The first third, you can see the time frame they're looking to finalize by, which would fall in the next fiscal year, and a payment of $52,000. So you can see the breakout for a grand total of $177,900. What this does is get your terrazzo floors at Polk County High School back to their original form where they should have been from the start. That we'll be able to maintain from this point moving forward. In terms of funding this project, the entirety of this project will be funded out of the TSBRRF. Always mess up the acronym. The Repair and Renovations Lottery Fund is where the entirety of the project will come from. And we actually have that application within your board materials as well.
All right. This is the contract we were looking for at our last meeting. I do believe, Mr. Fagan, everything on the up and up here.
Not a heck of a lot of contract to it. It's just an estimate. Doesn't get into a lot of details of what normally happen. It's probably typical for something of this nature.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Schweitzer? Once again, it is an actionable item. We'd be looking for a motion in a second for approval.
I move that we approve the PCHS floor project agreement.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And staying with Dr. Schweitzer, we'll go to the Charlotte Elementary School Pre-K Edition distribution request.
Okay, we'll talk a little more about the progress actually going on out at the site. This is the behind the scenes work related to the funding of the project. If you recall, this project is being funded from 3 separate sources. One is the needs-based lottery fund that we applied for 2 years ago and received in the amount of $1.3 million. Another is from Head Start, which was an amount of $1.5 million. And then the rest would come from local funding sources. All of these have various matches. Ms. Lovelace and I were able to work through all of those today. Head Start carries a 20% match that can be covered by the lottery funding. And then the lottery funding carries a 5% match that must be from local funds. So what this particular request is I have the first payment application there for everyone to see, which comes out to a grand total of $407,075. That is the bill to date for the work that has been completed out at Tryon Elementary School, which again, we'll show some imagery here in just a minute of what that gets you. Down here is the distribution request from the needs-based public school capital fund. We're citing that of the $1.3 million, this is our total local match at the end of the project. And the requested amount we are looking for in this particular distribution is $77,538 with a local match of basically $3,800. This will be a monthly application we'll have to submit. So for the time being, this will be something that will be a recurring board item as we roll through our payment applications throughout this project. The good news is the time frame for the project is exactly on track. Our contractor is optimistic, even at this point, that we're looking at a January completion date, which I'm very excited about. So we've stood up a little bit. Everything's moving ahead as scheduled.
Very good. Questions for Dr. Schweitzer? Once again, this is an actionable item. We'll be looking for a motion in a second for approval.
I make the motion that we accept the Charlotte Elementary School Pre-K Edition distribution request.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion also carries 7-0. Moving now, sticking with Dr. Schweitzer, we're going to go to bid approvals.
All right, we have several bid approvals before you guys today. What I have presented to you in your board materials is the low bid for each one of the respective bids, and we'll go through each one of these as we go through piece by piece. Obviously, all of these were undertaken in appropriate procurement processes. Interestingly enough, all of them, although wildly different projects, all fell under informal bidding specs. So we tried there under that policy to get at least 3 bids where we can. And again, I'm going to talk about each one of these as we go through them. At our last board meeting, we talked about the need for Polk County High School to be addressed in terms of the paving for the front end of the building. We met with the facilities subcommittee and talked about a lot of different options for funding, utilizing lottery sources, different ways to tackle the front end of the project. And where things settled was to look at trying to attack as much of the front end of Polk County High School as we could, from the connecting road all the way down to 108, all the way up, covering all of the parking areas, the administrative parking, the gym parking area, and then also the lower student parking, including a pave of the currently graveled areas down on that end as well. The facility subcommittee agreed in splitting the project into those parts. I'm not sure what percentage of the total grounds that works out to. I'd say it's probably about 45% total. But we're going to tackle that much of the front end of this, and that is what this bid represents. We had 3 different bids on the project. Tar Heel Paving, Stotts Paving, and NC Excavation and Paving were the 3 companies that put in bids. The winning low bid was Tar Heel Paving for their scope of project. One more time to reiterate here, I want to talk about this scope. The colors are actually represented in the bids themselves, but this is the areas we're looking at targeting in terms of the pavement. This line here will actually be where the cutoff for the pavement is. So it's going to run up about 30 to 50 feet on this side by the edge of the building. But all of these zones will be paved out. This area down here that's in this teal color is currently not paved, so that would be fresh pavement. Everything else would be a repave of the project. Our facilities committee talked about some of the key differences in the bids. Two of our bidders, Stotts and NC Excavation and Paving, recommended a full removal of the entire surface for the entire campus, and then a repave to 2 to 2.5 inches of depth. Tar Heel took a little bit different approach in terms of how they tackled it. They recommended that for the damaged areas, a full milling, take it completely out, and for non-damaged and structurally intact areas to do what's called a seal cap on it, which is to basically mill off about the top inch of the material, put back tar and gravel, and then a pave over top of it 1.5 inches thick. So that is the differences in those bids. Again, the color coding out on the bids themselves for the project are listed here. So you can see all of the particular bid amounts.
I do want to point out one thing here. Our facilities committee consists of myself, Mr. Coble, and Ms. Jackson. Because Ms. Jackson works for Tar Heel Paving, she did not participate in the facilities committee for this. We had a substitute with Ms. Gibbs. So I want to make that point clear.
Brendan, if we turn down into the field house, you know, we're going like 20 feet down into the field house.
Down on that end, they're actually going to cut it off right there at the top because there's a concrete walk across where those crossbars are. There's that gate structure down there. So they're going to cut it off right there. And then that second part towards the field house is actually newer paving. We paved that about, I'd say 8 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. That'll be covered in the second phase of the project.
I just know we talked about it.
Yes,
That's
that's
right.
All of this project, the last piece I forgot to mention, this particular one is going to be funded through our local tax set aside. It is the amount that our local county government is obligated to hold aside out of sales tax revenues, specifically for capital purchases.
And Mr. Chair, depending on your pleasure, how to vote for these, and if they're all listed as separate bids, you may want to vote on them along. It's up to you. If we do, I do think you need to split the paving out so that.
I agree with that.
Yes, correct.
So I think we need to go ahead and do what we did with that particular bid. Because we'd be looking for a motion and a second for approval if they're going to have questions.
I would like to accuse myself from making a motion or anything on the county.
Absolutely. Yep. Understood. If there are no questions, do we have a motion and a second for approval?
We move forward.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries 6-0.
Awesome.
One recusal.
Projected start date for that is immediately in the week that follows after graduation. So not this week, it'll be late week next week or the week after is when they're talking about potentially getting started if approved tonight.
Mr. Fagan, any issues with us approving the rest of these? I think they are all individuals. It's all separate comments. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So next up, we have the Polk County High School gym roof project. This is one that we have been evaluating all year long. If you'll recall, we've gone back and forth with various issues with our HVAC install that has happened on the roof. I do believe that Brady has done a very good job addressing those issues related to the actual units themselves. The part that Brady can't fix is that gym roof structure was already patched together long before they ever got there. There was evidence of leaking in the past that we had repaired and taken care of, and that gym roof has to be tackled differently than any other roof structure in our building. It is steel decking under the rest of Polk County High School, but underneath the gym area and also on the auditorium, they use a material called Tectum. It's a concrete mixture material. It's specifically for sound dampening. That Tectum material is notoriously difficult to try to work with. So I understand why we tried to put this project off as long as we have. We've had several roofing companies evaluate it. They've brought forth a lot of different proposals of how they want to tackle it. For this project, we had EnviroShield, Greer Roofing, Summit Roofing, and Trimco all take a look at it. The winning bid was EnviroShield. EnviroShield is proposing coming in and putting on basically a sealing through a silicone-based coating across the entire roof structure called Silk Oxy. We've utilized this material at several other sites and had great success with it. We are looking to pursue the $100,430 bid, which gets you a 20-year labor warranty. It's worth noting too that this particular team on all of their other sites throughout our school system has been fantastic about warranty service. It's almost been next day repairs when they've come out and taken care of things. So not only were they a little bitter, but their customer service is fantastic as well. This entire project will be funded out of the, I'll get it right this time, the Public School Building Repair and Renovation Fund from public, for the lottery fund. I almost got it. See, I stumbled. These acronyms are killing me. This is all repair and renovations fund from lottery.
Questions for Dr. Schweitzer? All right, we'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I make a motion that we accept the Polk County High School gym roof project.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Next up is Tryon Elementary School's dishwasher. I learned in this experience that this is quite a bit different than buying a dishwasher in your own home. Dollar signs are quite a bit different as well. So we put this particular bid out and got 3 bids back from Food Service Restaurant Supply, Trimark, and Deacon. It was helped for us through a company called Hobart. Hobart is our preferred manufacturer and has been very good to us over time. Hobart laid out all the specs and put it out there for bidding. And through that informal bid process, Food Service Restaurant Supply came back as the low bid. So it's FRS, and their bid total came in with labor, install, and the booster heater at $60,315. Quite a far cry from buying your dishwasher in your home. This is an industrial grade dishwasher. The dishwasher that has been there is also a Hobart product, and it has run for a very, very long time with a booster there that has been there as long as the dishwasher has as well. We've certainly got our money's worth out of it. We are stuck in an interesting spot at Tryon Elementary School because barring a architectural remodel with the electrical grid in that kitchen, we have to go back with a natural gas solution. Which was a small fraction of the price on this. We probably could have got it about $8,000 to $10,000 cheaper if we had the electrical infrastructure to go in. But given those factors, there's no telling how much it's going to cost to redo the electrical at Tryon Elementary School. So we figured this was the best choice given those set of options. This particular one will actually be funded out of the Public School Building Capital Fund. So your regular lottery fund will cover this one in its entirety.
Mr. Chair, just to give you an idea, a similar type, there was not a natural gas booster on the one at the high school. That high school model has lasted for 30 years. So when you make a $60,000 investment, you're not talking about a 10 or a 15. I mean, this is a 30-year investment. The dishwasher that should run 25, 30 years. The other thing is that we just had all of our cafeteria sites rated at 100%. Which is outstanding. But to make sure that they don't have any findings or any issues when we do wash those dishes, they need to be sterile, they need to go through all those things. And so whether we like it or not, this is where we are right now. And those companies know that. And that's why you see 60 grand on the price.
And not to belabor the point, but one final piece I want to make on behalf of Ms. Peeler. A lot of food service directors out there are shifting away from dishwashers and are going in favor of just purchasing paper products. Here's the hard part about going down the paper product route. While you can request through your bid that you want recyclable paper products, that does not mean that that's always what they will send you. Per their bid contract, they can send you a replacement or product in its place. And a lot of times that's the foam plates, which are not recyclable. So you end up in a scenario where what you intended to accomplish is not exactly how it plays out. So we elected to not go down that road and instead go down the road of something a little more sustainable.
Any questions from Dr. Schweitzer? Once again, we'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I move that we approve the Tryon Elementary School cafeteria equipment purchase.
A second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion also carries 7-0. All right, Dr. Schweitzer, Polk County Early College Security Project.
We have a little bit of money that has been set aside for a special project over at the county that we needed to be able to utilize. And there was no better place in my mind than taking a look at Polk County Early College. Polk County Early College has very basic security system in place. It has camera systems, those kinds of things. Has no door access controls though on any of the doors. If you recall, we have that at all of our other sites. It is the last remaining school site that does not have that capability. We have reached out to several different vendors to take a look at this particular project and give us their best method and approach to how they would secure this facility. We had Encore, Verkada, and Mobile Communications of America all take a look at it. Encore came back as the winning bid and contract. What they are essentially looking to outfit Polk County Early College with is a revamped camera system that will cover the entirety of all the commons areas in it. Two Halo vape detector sensors that will be installed in the student restrooms that can immediately detect any chemical signatures in the air and alert everybody on their cell phones as to what's going on, which will then in turn bring up a live feed of who's coming out of that particular bathroom at any given time. It's also going to have exterior camera systems around it. Being that close position to Ashley Meadows and the gravel parking lot, we think it's important for security purposes that we have that exterior surveillance and also the BP right across the street. And then finally, 2 door access controls, one at the main entrance to it and also a second door access control at the cafeteria side. This basically brings our early college up to and on par with our other facilities in terms of facilities. Grand total for this particular project. This one actually has a nice contract, Mr. Fagan. Yeah, let me get down here at the very end. Grand total for this particular project, $41,458. Of that total, $25,000 is going to be funded from the special security project set aside that's at the county. The rest will be local funding, local county.
Mr. Chair, we feel like this is also a good opportunity for us to work with this company and see if there are broader solutions that apply to maybe the entire district. We can figure out, is this the way to go? Those halo sensors, for example, we want to see how they work. Do they work well? Do they not? So I compliment Dr. Schweitzer and his effort in trying to get those companies to really outfit the early college in a way that will help us see the future.
Any questions for Dr. Schweitzer on the security system at the early college? Once again, we'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I'll make a motion that the Polk County Early College Security Project be accepted.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion also carries 7-0. Dr. Schweitzer, now to the interactive panels for classroom.
All right. So several years ago, we were able to do a mass outfitting of our elementary schools with newer interactive panel technology. We had been in the process of an implementation for a year prior. Some of our ESSER funding allowed us to purchase some more and take care of a lot of our schools that had older technology or no technology. This particular project would allow us to outfit and fix 16 of our oldest areas, oldest interactive tech, either don't have it or have models that are around at this point 7 years old. So it's going to allow us to clean some stuff up. Our teachers are really excited about the new models out there, doing some really inventive and creative things. With this particular project, this was an interesting bid process. I'm going to give kudos to my predecessor, Mr. Dave Sherping. He negotiated a pricing contract with Encore and specifically Promethean that locked us in at essentially the same unit price rate as Wake County, which means we are getting incredibly good rates on buying these products. For comparison, if you came off the street and tried to purchase one of these 75-inch panels at what we're getting for $2,400, that retails for about $3,700 total. So again, unit pricing is pretty exceptional. The catch to that is that Promethean, the actual brand itself, if you try to change vendors, ask you to renegotiate your pricing contract. So when I went out and tried to get pricing from, say, Trafera, someone else we've worked with in the past, Trafera came back to me and said, we can't give you a number unless you release your pricing contract from Promethean. As you can tell, we're getting a pretty insane deal. And so it was very hard for me to let go of that number to be able to jump ship. So Mr. Fagan and I discussed our options on this. Given that no one else was willing to bid on this particular project, I wanted to be transparent with the board about where we stood and that we have the single bid from Encore right now. However, at the will of the board, we can break that contract and go outbound and open it up.
What's pleasure board?
I move we approve the interactive panels for the classroom. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion also carries 7-0. And lastly, Dr. Schweitzer, we have student Chromebooks.
All right, and our final one tonight is going to be getting on track with a Chromebook refresh. A lot of the Chromebook purchases and going all the way back, you guys are all very well aware, Polk County has adopted a one-to-one access model in our schools. Given that our internet infrastructure across our county is waning a bit, and by our best estimates, only about 30 to 35% of our residents have adequate internet access across the district. It didn't make sense to do a one-to-one take-home model where kids would take devices home that were essentially not able to connect to anything. With that being said, to maintain our access model, our current fleet is starting to get age on it. Google only supports their Chromebooks up to about 5 to 6 years before they start rolling through their modeling. So you have to have some type of refresh cycle in place to cover your oldest models that are out there. Right now, we're trying to get ahead of, to be completely frank with you, a tidal wave of our Chromebooks that are going to come up on refresh in the next 2 years. Also with the Windows 11 launch, that has a small factor in this. It's coming up in about a year from now. So the bottom line is if we don't start taking little steps now to chip away at the deficit, I'll be coming back to you guys in about a year saying I need about 150 to 200 more Chromebooks and maybe even 300, some of those kind of things. So Mr. Green and I talked about the process of having some type of refresh model. We went out and put the bid out to Trafera, Howard, and STS, who came back. Trafera came back as the winning bid. To be frank with you, their bid was very close to Howard, who's a company we've just started working with. The one determinant factor on why we chose Trafera was they offer a 5-year warranty, which matches that Google licensing. Howard was only 3 years. So if it's going to be licensed for 5, we might as well have it covered in the warranty for 5 to be able to replace everything. And Trafera is one of the few in the game that still does that level of warranty, which is why we chose them as our bid.
Any questions for Dr. Schweitzer on the Chromebooks? What is that?
Comes out to $51,000.
And again, that's funded from where?
This one's going to be funded out of local funds. This would be local capital.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Schweitzer? Once again, we'd be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
So many.
All right, motion, we have a second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How many Chromebooks is that?
This will get us 150. So we're estimating if we can get 150 this year, next year, try to budget for between 150 and 200. That'll put us in great shape for being ahead of our mass roll off that's going to come after that. Just trying to plan ahead a little bit.
And where will they go? Which school?
These will actually go to outfit our oldest 150 that are out there currently in the fleet. So that could be scattered to a lot of different locations.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0 as well. Now moving along under old business, we stay with Dr. Schweitzer for the Tryon Elementary School Pre-K edition project update.
Last one, I promise. All right, so this one's actually pretty short.
While he's pulling that up, Mr. Chair, I would like to offer a big thank you to Dr. Schweitzer and Darren Green, our maintenance director. They've spent a lot of time organizing and getting things done from a capital perspective. The number of projects that we're engaging in this summer from an improvement perspective is enormous. And so it's a lot of work on them and getting all these bids and everything done. And the 50 different, pots of money we pulled this from. So I just want to say thank you for your efforts, Dr. Schweitzer. Thank you, and Mr. Green have done a great job. Not this Mr. Green, Darren Green have done a great job taking care of this stuff.
Thank you, sir. So last meeting I came to you guys and said this was 1 week of work out at Tryon Elementary School. They were forming up the base for the slab and the pad they were putting in. And this is what $400,000 gets you. So not a lot of change. So this is a great analogy. Obviously, people know that my wife works at Tryon Elementary School, and she and I were talking. I said, wow, what a beautiful picture of the amount of work those kids watched for 6 weeks as those guys were out there just working their butts off at getting that slab put in place and having it look really good and establishing a firm foundation. We talked about what a great picture it is for all the hard work that goes into setting a foundation for things that people will never see. Everybody will see this beautiful building up on top of it, but the engineering that went into that piece of it is pretty critical to that building being there for a long, long time. They've done a fantastic job getting everything set in place. One thing you're going to notice when you go out there is the elevation difference kind of caught us off guard a little bit. From the exit doors, we carried on a flat elevation all the way out. On the far side where the turnaround is going to be right this second is about a 2-foot drop off. So we're going to have a little backfill we have to do on that end to kind of build the grade up. But Champion Construction and their team have done a fantastic job. I just want to give them a shout out. They're really working hard. Right now we're seeing a lull in the project as we're going to start having steel delivered over the next couple of weeks. Here in about 2 weeks, you're going to see things really pick up with a flurry of activity, and you're going to see framing start going up, which everyone gets really excited about. Hopefully we'll be setting trusses in about 6 weeks and start looking like a building.
Fantastic. Any questions for Dr. Schweitzer? We do thank you, sir. Thank you for all the hard work you've been doing on all this. Any other old business, Mr. Green?
Yes, sir. I just want to get a real quick feel. I talked to Ms. Carter over at Thermal Belt, and she just wanted to get kind of an idea. Would you like to see an opportunity to go have that visit in June, July? Do you want to wait till August? I talked to her about maybe just picking a couple of dates, maybe one in June, one in July, and throwing them out there. And if you can make it, great. If you can't, you can. But what is the board's pleasure for a visit to Thermal Belt and our housing project out there? Doesn't matter. Pick a couple of days and throw it out.
Yeah, just pick some days.
Pick one in June, one in July, maybe.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay. And then the only other thing is just a reminder, always encourage you guys to come to graduation. It means a lot to the kids and folks if y'all can be there. I know sometimes things come up, but also remind you of our June 29th meeting day at 5:30 p.m. No meal included that night. And Mr. Green will be joining via Zoom. My apologies for that. Mr. Murphy says he can handle everything that needs to be taken care of that evening.
You guys know I will be remote as well.
That's correct. We got a few folks being remote, so
Any other old business? All right, then what do we have for new business?
save the best for last. Under new business to start off with, still want you guys thinking about the request made of the board to honor Mr. Hollis in some way. We can talk about that at a later time. You guys can be thinking about that. We don't have a formal idea of that yet, but I'll get something to you via email to let y'all consider for that. Certainly, he has done a lot for Polk County schools and our athletic programs, especially our football team and the young man he serves there. The governor issued a resolution that you had a copy of. I sent that to you via email. It's up to the board whether or not you want to pursue that particular resolution. It certainly outlines what he believes to be some fairly glaring inadequacies in the proposed budgets in terms of what they're doing to support public education. I'm obviously biased. In my opinion, really doesn't matter, but certainly that's what the resolution speaks to, is to try to fund public education at a rate that will truly impact kids in a positive way. So the board's open, for discussion on that matter. If you want to go down the road with this resolution, we can do so. We can table it until next meeting, and then have you guys think about it a little bit. But at that time, I think most of the conferencing will be done between the two chambers. So if we're going to do it, now is probably the time to do it. Totally up to the board.
What is the pleasure of the board? Right. Switched. Right.
I would like to see us hold off on this till our June meeting, the end of the month, so that we have time to go over it.
Okay.
But you feel like that'll be too late?
Not necessarily. I mean, the chambers are working right now. They are estimating it's going to take them, into July to get their conferencing done. We've seen budgets here as late as November. I don't think it'll be November. This particular legislative delegation has decided they're going to try to get it done by the end of July. So I still think it'll be there. And, I think it's fair to say that there'll be other districts who are issuing these same resolutions. We can sit here and have debates on how effective we think they are in terms of legislators and whether they really consider them. That's up to you to have that discussion. But I certainly don't see it being a huge issue if you want to wait until the 29th and we get issued with that.
We've looked at this before though, right?
Yeah. In some ways, well, it's not my place, but I'll say it. you have to be careful in what type of political phrase do you want to engage. And so if you have, a certain direction going with the House and the Senate and the governors over here, does that look like we're trying to get involved in that? Certainly, we advocate all the time for funding for public education. So I don't necessarily think we need, do we have to adopt a resolution saying that we believe that public schools are needing, adequate funding? I think they know that we feel that way. But by the same token, is it a show of solidarity for everybody to get together and do it? So
Do you think, it doesn't affect, what we do with HB 66? Those are all separate issues.
all separate stuff.
But the political atmospheres.
Yeah, I don't know how close they're watching those resolutions when they come through. On both sides of that coin, do they notice them? I don't know if they do or not. Are they sitting there checking the list off? All formatted Polk County because it's in a resolution. They probably don't do that either. So I don't know.
Do we know what the dollar amount or percentage?
That would all be contained in his remarks. You'd have to go back and watch this because he went through specific areas. The governor did to talk about like the deficiencies were, and started there around things like teacher salary and all those other things.
EC was a big one.
EC was huge.
Was
Right.
huge.
I'm in favor of it. I just don't know how much.
And that why it may be good to let you guys digest on it a little bit and then shoot it out.
Let's just stay with that.
Okay.
Other new business?
Last but not least, sir, as I informed you via email, HB 66, which was originally a Catawba County Schools, Hickory City, and Newton Conover City Schools, bill was introduced by their delegation to have them have their board members elected under partisan guidelines. In other words, you would have to be registered as a Republican or a Democrat to run for those positions, and they would have partisan elections in those three districts. Over time, that was back in early in the cycle. Over time, different things have been thrown in and out of that bill. I think at this point, Pamlico's been added, Buncombe's been added, and Polk County was added to that bill, even though neither one of our representative and our senator were not sponsors of that bill. In terms of being upfront and clear in regard to what I have heard, and in my investigation into this, the Senate has been pretty open about their desire to have all school board elections be partisan. They want most local elections, if not all, to be partisan. And so I think it's safe to assume that that is the push from the leadership on the Senate side. I will say in talking with Mr. Jake Johnson, he is completely aware that the county commissioners sent a letter to the delegation at that time in 2021, stating that this county was not in favor of going partisan without at least some type of referendum where the public could vote on do they want partisan elections or do they not. So in honesty, it was kind of standing against having a Senate or a House bill proposed that would make our elections at our school board level partisan. So I say all that to say that the commissioners have been very clear. And I think they have expressed that to Representative Johnson, that they are worried and concerned that making a partisan election process for the Polk County Board of Education will immediately stick about over 6,000 people to the side that would have to get signatures to run for Board of Education. Those are unaffiliated voters, which I think are close to 40% of the voters in Polk County. So there's a huge concern in access to those particular seats on the school board. I think they feel like we already have a process in place where people can hear and see what candidates are about during a school board election. We're going to have forums, have people do those kind of things. And they made a couple of points in the resolution they adopted tonight, which you all have a copy of, that basically talks about how we feel like kids are best educated without the specter of politics hanging out there, and that they feel like these ought to be nonpartisan, or at the very least put a referendum out to the entire community or county, to see if the county wants it to be partisan. So I think you have Representative Johnson that knows exactly how we feel, seems supportive of the referendum piece of that. I think he's going to go back to Senator Moffitt, who we have not been able to speak with about this particular matter. Doesn't mean anything one way or the other, but I think he will go to him and try to say, please allow the county to vote on that. That's the desire of our commissioners. And certainly that's where the county commissioners are. And at this point, Mr. Chair, I think this board, can consider having a resolution to the same type of effect that the county commissioners have adopted tonight. Ours would read a little bit differently, obviously, but probably will be very succinct and simply talk about why we believe that partisan elections are not the best thing for Polk County Board of Education. So happy to work with you to draft that if the board wants me to do so, get it back out to you very quickly for your review. I think this particular bill is coming up for conversation again in the coming days. And so obviously speed is of the essence. We found out about this on Friday. It was inserted in the bill on Wednesday. No local representative or entity was contacted by anybody on the legislative side. So the only reason we were made aware of it is because Ms. Jackson is wonderful about staying up with politics and that information, and made me aware of it. I looked into it too, and actually got 3 or 4 calls afterwards from Pamlico County Superintendent and Dr. Jackson up in Buncombe, who were sharing similar concerns about that stuff being inserted into that bill. So I'm happy to proceed however the board wants me to. I think we can throw a resolution together very quickly that is very clear in terms of our opposition to HB 66. And certainly from my chair, I think that would be appropriate given what the county's done.
It's a pleasure, board.
I think we should proceed with it.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we proceed.
Do we need to make a motion to second for approval of this, or just have him help us draft something and then we'll approve that once that's happened?
Well, I think if he clarified that it's going to be essentially in the form that the commissioners do.
Yes, sir.
What you're thinking.
Yeah, I think he can approve it.
I'll tell you from a food standpoint, if you felt comfortable with that, Mr. Council, I do believe that's the way to go, is if y'all will give approval and trust Mr. Ashworth and I, we can shoot something out to you quickly. And if anybody has any heartburn, get back to us quickly. Otherwise, we can go ahead and submit it on and say that it was adopted. Okay.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries 7-0. Mr. Green, any other new business?
I think that is it, sir.
All right. For the information presented to the board, we have the pre-K financial report, the monthly financial report, the month-to-date credit card report. We have Polk County High School graduation this Friday night, June 9th at 7 p.m. at the high school. The last day of school for students is June 9th, which is a half day. Last day of school for staff is the following week on the 16th. We do have the board meeting on June 9th at 5:30. There is NCSBA offering optional board training. One is the Summer Leadership Conference, June 12th and 16th at Rice Beach. The other is the NCSBA Annual Conference, November 13th and 15th in Greensboro. At this time, we are moving into public input. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 people signed up to speak. You each have 3 minutes to talk. And our first on the list is Ms. Cheryl Wingo.
Thank you for being so attentive to the HB 66 resolution. My daughter went to the high school, graduated 2003. I've been here since 99, having married a Spartanburg boy. And the reason we really chose Polk County was just what that motto says, doing what's right for students. So thank you all for still doing it.
All right. We just restarted there. Dr. Schweitzer, thank you, sir. And then we have Mr. Garland Rice.
This is like a reunion for me amongst you folks. And I want you to know how much it pains me to know that the school is breaking down and falling apart and aging, because I was there the first day it opened.
It's not 30 years, is it? 3 years old.
Anyway, this thing happening, whatever its title is not the will of the people. And we must march over to the commissioners and let them know that we want a referendum and have the courage to have a referendum. And the other thing I learned today is that most of the voters in our county are unaffiliated now. You know, they're jumping back and forth. So they may not be able to vote for a Republican or a Democrat. And they're a majority by far.
Well, compared to the other 2 parties, the largest party is unaffiliated.
Unaffiliated. And so they actually don't have a whole voice, but they jump back and forth to become a Democrat if they want to be there or otherwise. But we're not representing those folks with just pushing this thing through. And those 2 points are what we need to be screaming at the commissioners' meetings. And I think they're already there. They just need to be able to save face with the referendum. That has everybody save face. You know, you can just that's what the people said. And that takes courage. But that's what we need. So I hope they have the courage to put a referendum up, and I can live with that. You know, if a referendum is represented here or there, I can live with it. And so that's what we want to see. And so however we can do that, we can go to the commissioners' meetings, talk to them, let them know we reinforce their thoughts that they've already sent to these representatives. And so they're not representing us, and we need to be letting that be known. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do not have anybody else signed up to speak. Again, thank you all for being here this evening. Appreciate the time. And at this point, we're looking for a motion to move into closed session for purposes of discussion of personnel. And is there an attorney-client for?
Just a
Okay.
minute, yes, sir.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries 7-0.
Both sides. Thank you.